So we're back, and I just wanted to. I've got this incredible lady. I watch her on LinkedIn, and I know she does some incredible work, educating the incredible, fantastic, extraordinary people of the UAE. Neetu Choudhary, thank you for joining us today. It's really lovely to be talking to us. So, how are you today? I know you're not feeling particularly well. We were just chatting in the green room.
Thank you so much, Andrew, first of all, for inviting me. And I just love talking to you, like, because every time I interact with you, I learn so much. So I'm doing brilliant, and I'm so happy to be here again with you.
I just can't get. I keep telling so many people about how amazing your daughter is. It was such an interesting conversation, not least because we've been talking a lot recently around kind of Generation Alpha. Um, and I think that's an interesting concept, and it's really got me thinking about kind of handing the baton over to next generations. I think we have a duty to actually look after the next generation and make sure that they're fully equipped to they're obviously they're going to inherit the world, right? So I know you've got a very interesting journey, and I know you didn't used to be in learning and development. So what made you sort of move into the space of learning and development, Neetu?
Actually, when I completed my master's, that was the time like the World Trade Center, the US, and all this crisis was happening. So no recruitment companies came for the campus recruitment, and that time I joined a college as a lecturer. So I was lecturer in engineering college for 4 years. From that point of time, I learned that what change, what impact as a lecturer I can make, and I can create so many bright minds over there. So my passion started over there. And fortunately, when I joined the corporate world that time also, although I was like a software engineer, senior software engineer, and then PMO and all those things, but somewhere the training was always part of it. I was teaching about Six Sigma, and then the IT service management and all. In fact, different departments were calling me to run the train the trainer program. So it has always been there. Maybe I just love that.
And you are super talented, an incredible leader. So when we talk about leadership, what does leadership mean to you, Neetu? What makes great leaders?
For me, the leadership is keep bringing people together. That's the most important thing, and that's one thing I learned in last 21 years of my work and 40 plus years of my, like, all the things which I have seen along. Many years ago, one of my friends gave very beautiful example. If we keep the hand like this, and I'm at this finger, the index finger, if I can lift it up to here, but if I have to go to this level, I need to lift the whole hand, then only I can go. And I alone cannot go. I have to lift everybody, all five fingers, my hand, everything, arm, then only I can lift. So that's what the leadership is: bringing everybody on board, taking care of them, and achieving something bigger. And when we do that, it's so beautiful, the how we inspire other and create new leaders. It's amazing, like we do so many projects, whether it's a CSR or corporate or anything. It's amazing to see how everybody comes on board, and at the end of the day, everybody feels that they have achieved something bigger. They are much more than what they were yesterday. That's the beauty
You know
of
what?
it.
No, and crikey, I've just fallen in love with you all over again, because it is. You're right. It's leadership is. And don't tell your husband; he'll probably come and get me. But leadership is obviously. I think you're right. It's lifting others, right? I think that's such an important thing. One of the things that I really struggle. So often I struggle with leaders because they just feel that they are there to be served. I think I'm not the world's best at it. I try really hard to do it, but I try to be there to serve my people, to serve the team that I'm working with. I think that's really, it's about making their lives easier. If
Exactly.
something I'm doing can make their lives easier, I can create an environment of safety and security to really help them. That makes a big difference. Just here's a question for you. You've got a beautiful daughter. If you were to describe to a 5-year-old what you did, what would you describe your job to a five? How would you describe your job to a 5-year-old?
For the 5-year-old, I want to mention two, three things here. The first, I'll answer your question. For the 5-year-old, if I have to say that what I'm doing, I'll say I have a magic wand, and I help people find their magic wand so that they can make their dreams real. That's what
Oh,
exactly
that's
I do.
so you
I
so
show
you,
them
you
that
so
this is not just a dream, you can actually achieve it. And I help them find their magic wands.
So are you Neetu Potter? And where do we find you on platform 6 3/4? Is that where we find you? So, so
I think I like
there's
water. That's nice. That's nice. In fact, when you spoke about the leadership, I wanted to say my daughter sometimes she does a lot of projects like charity book sale and all those things. And sometimes she says, Amma, nobody's listening to me. I'm the leader. They have to listen. And I said, that's not how what the leadership is all about. It's about listening to everyone and finding a midway where everybody feels heard and involved. It's not about my way or highway. So she is learning those skills, but it's good that she does a lot of projects and she's leading it. So yeah, she realizes that leadership is not what is shown in books and pictures. It's entirely different thing at the ground level.
it's right because people. I think that's good advice, Neetu, because people choose to follow leaders. They don't have to follow leaders, do they? I think they have to probably follow managers. I think that's an interesting point. But generally, I think people make a decision that they're going to follow a leader, and that leader doesn't have to have a job title. You know, I'm always at
Exactly.
pains to say that. You know, so many times in my career, I've sat with team members who have said, "Well, if I had a job title, if I had a kind of like a bigger job title, it would be easier for me to lead." And I say I fundamentally disagree. You know, people will choose to lead by the example you're setting them. So if you set a great example, you're in first, out last, working hard, and asking questions, it makes a massive difference. But hey, you know, leadership is it's really stressful. I was having this conversation yesterday with a brilliant woman called Parry, and she's just you know just an incredible mentor to me, has been an incredible support to me. And we were talking about, you know, how do we sort of like maintain the energy as leaders. So kind of when you feel down, when you feel a bit stressed, when you can't, you feel you can't cope, how do you kind of like push through? Because you always seem to be very energetic to me. So how do you maintain your energy?
I think my husband always finds it difficult because my energy is always high and my passion is also super high. So he always tell, from where do you get this energy? Actually, I get this energy from whenever I feel like there are bad days, there are things don't work out, those days are there. And I just go back and talk to myself, why did I start this whole thing? What was the ultimate aim of starting it? I talk to myself and I go back to that why for first thing. And then I say, okay, if today is this day, it's okay because the purpose is much bigger than just small failures. Purpose is so big, making an impact on 1 million lives. It's such a big purpose that one or two failure, they just don't make any sense.
It's a
And
bit
I
like my
you know, the biggest thing is that whenever I post a small video or any article, or I just talk to somebody, and after few days, few months, few years, when they come back and say, because we saw your video, we attended your training or session, I did this thing big in my life, which was like I was not doing for years, but after listening to you, I did. And that is such a brilliant feeling, actually. That moment I see, yeah, this is what I wanted to make the difference.
It's I agree. Often people say you can't change the world, Stotts, but I can change one. I can try and help one person. You know, I
Exactly.
love
And that's
my
what I
I
want
love.
to mention here. Andrew, you are a person who I have never seen like anybody like you who's always there to help. Like I've never ever seen you if I have approached with anything and you said no. And I don't know how you, with your busy schedule, how do you manage time? So I think that is one of the biggest leadership quality. No matter how busy are you, you know when anybody needs your help and you are there for them.
Well, it's just like kind of rescuing the starfish, isn't it? I mean, I think I if someone that kind of wants my help, and I've got, I have tens of. I mean, I was in a session this morning. I have tens of thousands of books, and about 5 or 6 people asked me, oh, can I, can I
Me
have
too.
this? Do you
I
have this book? And do you have this book?
also
Yeah, do you have this book? And I just went, yeah, no, it's fine. They were just like, they were looking at me kind of like, wow, that's incredible. So within a few seconds, they had their kind of books on their phones, and they were like going, how do you do that? And I'm like, well, it's just, because it's about helping people, right? It's that kind of like, I love the kind of the concept of the chessboard, because if you imagine kind of 64 squares on a chessboard, it's actually quite a funny conversation, because a few days ago I was having this conversation in a workshop, and I was asking someone mathematically if they could work out the equation for me. So there's 64 squares on a chessboard. Each square has the first square has 1 grain of rice. Then each square we're going to double. Yeah. So for example, on the second square, we have 2, third square, we have 4, fourth square, we have 8, fifth square, we have 16, and so on and so forth, then 32, 64, do the mathematics. So I said, how many, if you did that right the way through the board of chess, how many grains of rice would you have when you got to the 64th square? And the person said, you probably have a chicken korma, Stotts. And you'd have a lot, but the reality is you'd have a lot more than a chicken korma. You'd have, actually that number is greater than the entire amount of rice that has ever been grown in the history of humanity. So it's a big number. It's many, 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 many trillions of grains of rice, trillions and trillions and billions of grains of rice. So it's quite fascinating. It's a huge number. But for me, it's just those, when I talk about that, it's about that my ability to try and influence one grain of rice, because I'm only really trying to influence the one person in front of me, Neetu. So at any given time, it's really just the one person in front of me. And if I could influence that person, give them a positive experience, they then think, or maybe they could go and influence someone else. It makes a massive difference. So, but sometimes we are down. So how do when we're down, how do we cope with it? How do we sort of pick ourselves up? Because I like you, probably have bad days. So how, what kind of tips do you have to kind of like bring yourself back?
The first thing is I look back that why did I start? Second thing, I go back and see my LinkedIn, because it's kind of journaling for me. I see,
Yeah.
okay, I have come this far. This means it's not just mere luck. I have really worked hard to reach here. And if I can make from 0 to 100, I can make from 100 to 200. Today is just another day. The third thing I look for is that if I give up now, it's not only me who's going to give up. It's everybody who looks up to me and who gets inspired. Like if Neetu can do, I can do it. So if I'm giving up, I'm actually taking up their hopes also. Like they are just on the verge that, okay, I will start. If I see one more video first, I'll start. And if I give up now, then they will also lose the hope. Because I have reached here, thousands of people have helped. That's why I've reached over here. I've not reached it alone, and now this is my responsibility to help them again.
Beautiful. And so who inspires you? Who are your heroes then, Neetu? Who inspires you?
It's the most difficult question to answer, because I learn from every single person. Like I love the way when you say own it. I have never seen anybody using that own it thing, and that makes it so clear that you are the person who's creating your own life. You're owning it, whether you're learning, not learning, stretching your limits, not stretching, doing things, not taking risk, anything, you are owning it. And I just love that. So I think millions of people have inspired me to do things. It's very difficult to just pinpoint to one person because it's unfair to others.
No. I agree. I mean, I'm influenced by so many inspirational people in my life as well. So they're so motivating for me and so encouraging. So it's really amazing. Last question for you. So, often, if people are watching this and they're thinking about engaging and trying to be to bring out the leader in themselves, what kind of advice would you give for prospective leaders, people who are want to take that kind of leadership journey? What tips would you give?
For that, I'll say the best advice which my mom gave me. She said, "Fly high, but keep your feet on ground always." And I used to, as a child, I used, how is it possible? If I'm flying high, how will I keep my feet on ground? But now, as I'm growing older, I understand. She always used to say, keep your ego on check. Always don't become complacent. Keep your ego on check. Always keep checking that your ego is not like overpowering you, and you're always thinking about others. So these are some things we have to be always mindful, especially as a leader when we are growing. We have to be mindful. Like I used to tell my daughter also, don't be the boss, be leader. As we grow in leadership, sometimes we feel, okay, everybody has to listen to me, they are doing work for me, but actually they're working with you, not for you. So we have to be mindful about it, and we are nothing without them. Like I said, that all five fingers have to grow. This alone finger cannot do anything.
Okay, my last question. So this is kind of double-edged. This has got a double-edged sword. So first of all, if you could ask any, so my next guest, I can't tell you who my next guest is going to be, but what question, if you could ask any human being any question, what question would you like to ask? That's what I'm going to write it down because I'm going to ask my next guest. So what question would you like to ask my next guest?
I would ask, how do they deal with success? Because
How
everyone, how do you deal with success?
how do you deal with success? Yes, I will definitely ask that question. My last guest asked a question. Are you shaking? You should be shaking. So they wanted to know what your superpower would be, Neetu. So what would you, if you could have any superpower, what would your superpower be?
Just craziness, seeing something which others can't see. I see things actually. I can envision things, and sometimes people say it's just crazy, but I can see it's there, it's coming.
So your superpower would be craziness, because I always say that my superpower is Maynoon, which is
Yeah.
the Arabic for crazy. I think maybe we're brother and sister from a different mother.
Yes.
Neetu, important. So here's the last. So there's a big event going on. You got there's a workshop you're running. Is it beginning of October? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, it's on the 1st of October. Actually, I do only two public workshops in a year. So, this is the last workshop. It's about the idea presentation. We have
Oh
more
wow.
than 60,000 thoughts in a day. And many of them are ideas, but people don't know how to talk about it or express it. And maybe you never know which idea could have changed the world, but we just did not give it a voice. So, in this workshop, I'm talking about giving the structure to the idea and how to present it by speaking the language of your audience, not your language, because ultimately we present idea to get the buy-in to implement it. So how to speak their language so that you can get buy-in and you can implement that. So it could be any idea.
Any idea at all? So that's a beautiful ending to our session. So obviously, if you want to book space with Neetu, you've got her website on the screen just there. Of course, if you want to reach out and ask Neetu any questions, or indeed myself, I doubt that very much, but please feel free to do that. Neetu, I hope you feel a bit better very, very soon. Please pass my love to your beautiful daughter and your very, very handsome husband. And I shall speak to you very, very soon. Take care,
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you.
Bye.